So you know how one of the great things about radio is when it sort of puts things together, let's say two songs together, and the juxtaposition of those two songs somehow makes you appreciate each of them individually a bit more. Well, that's what we're sort of hoping from this session now. So in a few minutes, you're going to be hearing from Michael Hill about the technical challenges of making content navigable and findable on voice-activated technology. And he'll also do a bit of future gazing about what next for these devices. But first, I'm going to be taking you through a whistle-stop tour of some of the facts, some of the facts from a new Radiocentre research project, which was developed and co-funded by both Radioplayer and Global. And this explores the implications of voice-activated technology for radio listening and advertisers. Well, what I'd like to do is to start with some interaction. Now, I'm assuming most of you are aware of this device. I like to think about it as a radio, but with some a clever additional functionality. So, yeah, can I ask who in the room owns one of these devices or has one in their home? Can you put your hand up? Okay, I reckon, you don't know, you can't tell, so I can make up any number, but I'm going to say about 30%, which is pretty impressive considering, as we've heard already today, that it's only been in the market for around 6 months. By the way, if you don't currently own one, there will be an opportunity to win one at the end of the day. Siobhan will talk to you about how to get your hands on one in the roundup of the morning. So even beyond our London bubble, there's huge interest in this device. And if you follow the headlines, then you'll be well aware that the Echo was the star attraction at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas earlier this year. But as much as people are hugely excited about the possibilities of this technology, it's also raising some interesting questions. WTF is Zero UI. It's normally a text I'd expect to receive from my teenage son, but it was an article about the impact of having no screen on a device on consumer behavior, perhaps more eloquently encapsulated by Walk's Time to Think Screenless headline. But for the people in this room, perhaps the more important question is, in a voice-controlled future, where do the ads go? Now, with Amazon remaining tight-lipped about sales and usage, we decided to invest in some research to find out more about the adoption of this new technology and its impact on radio and brands. So research agency Differentology conducted a mixture of quantitative and qualitative research on our behalf. And as Echo was the only standalone voice-activated device in the UK at the time we conducted this study, we used it as a proxy for the whole market as it evolves. So what did we find out? Well, in the interest of time, I can only give you the main headlines now. But there is a copy of the full report in the goodie bag, probably the most useful thing you'll be taking away with you today, especially if you also have a wobbly desk. So, our first finding is that voice activation isn't just about a nebulous future. It's about the here and now. As Siobhan revealed at the start of the morning, adoption of Echo has been rapid since its launch, with over 9% of households owning one or more devices. And importantly for new technology, a positive user experience is very much at the center of this. 89% of Echo owners love or like the device. So clearly, recommendation has and will continue to play an important role in driving penetration. In fact, with 4 out of 10 adults intending to purchase, mostly in the next 12 months, household penetration could hit 40% by early 2018. And if that seems quite steep, well, it's worth considering how quickly smartphones were adopted. And you've got to remember in that context that the Echo is much cheaper than an iPhone, and secondly, that people aren't tied into existing contracts that prevent them entering the market early. And with an average household size of 2.4, that 40% penetration means there are going to be a lot more people with access to Echo. And that's important because Echo clearly plays a central role in the home. In single-device households, Echo is predominantly located in shared spaces such as the living room, the kitchen, or the dining room, meaning that it's easily accessible and used by all members of the household. As one of our users explained, our first one we put in the living room so anyone could have access to it. This accessibility, in tandem with the humanization of Echo's voice assistant Alexa, incidentally 2/3 of people in our survey see her as more human than technology, helps encourage even tentative technology users to give it a go. Even my mum, who slams a laptop shut as soon as any notification pops up on screen because she's afraid that the internet is trying to steal her banking details, is happy having a chat with Alexa. And that is incredible, I tell you. So in multi-device households, however, Echo extends placement into more private spaces, with the bedroom taking over as the second most common setting for the device after the living room. As our user goes on to say, we loved it so much, we bought a Dot for the bedroom too. We also see devices placed in other locations that benefit from hands-free control, such as the bathroom and toilet. But overall, Echo remains most accessible in shared spaces, and this clearly helps it become established as part of the daily routine. Our research highlights that the vast majority of Echo owners use it regularly, 81% at least once a day or more. Now, I think this is helped by its audio-only output, which makes it a perfect partner for multitasking, meaning it's not competing for time spent on primary tasks. More crucially, perhaps, you don't need to move a muscle to control Echo, and this may be helping it to supersede usage of some other devices. As this next user suggests, Echo could be challenging the alarm clock, radio, and mobile as the first device accessed in the day. Before I even open my eyes in bed, I'm talking to Alexa. Alarm off, radio on, what's the weather today? But Echo isn't just a device for those who can't be bothered to move. People's reasons for using the Echo and the specific functions they access vary across the day to reflect the user's needs. In the morning, people use Echo to gather functional, bite-sized information to help them prepare for the day ahead. When relaxing in the evening, the emphasis is more on immersive, entertainment-led activities. Worth noting here how radio usage is prominent across both day parts. And this, in turn, links nicely on to the primary reason that people gave for buying Echo, which is to get greater access to the audio entertainment it provides. As a result, audio dominates current usage, with a total of 91% of Echo users either listening to the radio or stream music services through the device. And with 77% of users tuning in, radio is the most widely accessed form of audio entertainment on the device. As one of our users said, it's not that we're doing new things, we're doing things that we were already doing, just more of them. And it's easier this way. So we were already listening to the radio, but now it's easier. Everything is in one place. No surprise then to see that Echo is helping to increase the time spent listening to both live radio and stream music services such as Spotify and Amazon Prime Music. We've already considered how Echo's hand-free control and audio-only output make it an ideal partner for multitasking, and audio entertainment seems to be the perfect accompaniment to that. And more audio listening is good news for advertisers because it means more ears are available to speak to more often. And clearly, messages are getting through. Over half of daily users claim to have heard advertising when using their Echo. So the most quoted source was radio advertising, heard whilst listening through the Radioplayer or TuneIn skills. Ads were also recorded in podcasts, some of which are available through TuneIn. Pre-roll in news skills from providers such as The Guardian or the recently launched Entertainment News from GTN, and free subscription music services connected through Bluetooth. Now, as well as being identified as the most recalled source, radio was also revealed to be the preferred environment for advertising, with Echo owners claiming that ads feel more natural and less interruptive in radio content compared to ads in other audio formats. In fact, the positive sentiments were 5 times greater. So this frictionless nature of interacting with Echo means that users are open to a greater engagement with brands and advertising as this functionality is developed and introduced. However, this clearly needs to be handled sensitively. The user wants to retain control of any sort of level of deeper interaction, and relevance is really, really important. As this user suggests, outside of traditional audio advertising, it's clear that brands need permission before they intrude on the user-Echo relationship. So finally, with the prevalence of audio entertainment and audio advertising on the device, this research suggests that brand advertisers should consider new strategies that look beyond just screen-based advertising and acknowledge the importance of audio branding as voice activation enters the mainstream. For those that do, Radiocentre research into brand sound has clear learning. Listeners respond really positively to familiarity. There could be familiar voices, music, constructs, or straplines, if they're used consistently over time and across different platforms, help the listener instinctively recognize who is speaking to them and drive likability of and a deeper level of engagement with the advertising content. And there's no need to wait to start doing this. Forward-thinking, sound-conscious advertisers can start experimenting right now. And this research suggests that radio advertising is the ideal lab to test in. So thank you very much. Please welcome Michael Hill.
Thanks, Mark. Just want to move on the slide there. I'm going to leave you two guys to sort that out. There we go. So I'm going to talk a bit about building voice interfaces for these platforms and where the technology is going to go next. Now, currently, TuneIn is the default radio interface on the Amazon Echo. So what that means is I can ask it, I can say play Radio 1 and it should play. Now, you can also ask Radioplayer to do the same thing. Why would you do this? I'll go into that a bit more detail in a minute. But this is how you would ask it. I'd say something like, Alexa, play Radio 1 on Radioplayer.
This is BBC Radio 1.
Alexa, ask Radioplayer to recommend a station.
Okay, let me recommend you a station. You can ask me to skip it, and I'll find you another. This is Kiss FM UK.
Alexa, skip.
This is BBC Radio London.
Alexa, skip.
This is Capital London.
Now, those recommendations are based on an algorithm we've written, which looks at the last station that the user asked for. In this case, it was Radio 1. So what it's doing is it's knowing that crossover listening is high between Radio 1, KISS, and Capital. And it's also looking at location, which is why BBC Radio London was recommended there as well. So this is a really great way of getting users to discover more stations that they love. And people are really appreciating the Radio Player skill, that recommendation feature. We asked in the research, amongst heavy radio listeners on the Echo, which skills they used the most. And bearing in mind that TuneIn is the default radio skill, we were very surprised to hear that actually more heavy listeners used Radio Player. And we wondered, well, why is that? Is it pointing to any clues about how voice interfaces should work for radio? So we looked at the reviews on the App Store. I'll just read a few out. Works great. Like others, I've had significant problems with the default radio app not recognizing. Radio Player does it pretty much flawlessly. So that's about how well things work. We put a lot of effort into alternative pronunciations for UK station names so that it just plays what you want. Does exactly what it says, had no problem finding my favourite radio station after setting up the location, also recommended the local radio stations as well, thumbs up. So that's about localness. We've also put a lot of effort into knowing that if the user is in Liverpool and they request Capital, it's Capital Liverpool that they should be listening to. We think the listener would like that. We also think Global would like that. Alexa recognises the local way it's said, wave 105 rather than 105. Now this is really obvious and really important. Many voice interfaces you would have to say 105 or 105. Actually, on all the imaging, the station imaging, it's wave 105. So we've made sure that that synonym is in our database so that when someone says wave 105, they get to the right station. Having used TuneIn to listen to Absolute 80s, I found that it skipped around a lot. Well, ours doesn't because we have the official streams from Bauer for Absolute stations. And that means we can get maximum reliability and the highest possible quality to these devices. So those are just some reasons that the users have given on the actual reviews. Amazon themselves have been great partners. They asked us, they suggested that we should build a skill 3 months before their launch in the UK, which was really good of them. And consistently, they've supported through their newsletters and through their marketing the Radio Player skill. This came out a couple of days ago. They looked at all the most engaging skills on the Echo platform. Turns out that Radio Player is the second most engaging skill after something involving a penguin. But yeah, we'll take whatever support we can get. No, Amazon have been fantastic partners. We used the research to ask listeners what else they wanted the radio player skill to do. We were hoping in doing this that they would give us a very clear steer on their top priorities, but actually it turns out they want all of these things more or less. Shouting at the radio, what's this? The radio will be able to say track name, artist name, program name. So very, very simple, a bit like glancing up at the DAB radio and looking at the scrolling text, but in voice form. That's the one that they were most interested in. Remind me to listen to the match tomorrow evening, so an audio reminder for the radio. Wake me up with Radio X at 7 o'clock. Play me the Archers from yesterday. So these are all things that we're working on. Quite complex voice interactions to build these in, but we're working with Amazon on them at the moment. It's not all about the Echo, though. As Mark said, other voice devices have very recently launched in the UK. This is Google Home. Google Home doesn't use Alexa. It uses different back-end systems, and we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. If you take a hammer to a Google Home, it looks like that. Basically, lots of plastic, a loudspeaker, a few microphones, not much technology. Those chips at the top are mostly doing Wi-Fi. So the devices themselves are incredibly simple. So how do they work? How do they make that beautiful user experience that everyone talked about? Well, I'm no techie, but this is my kind of take on how these things work. And it helps if you understand this when we go on to talk about the characterization and the humanization of these platforms in a minute. Basically, the microphone is constantly listening for the wake word. In the Echo's case, it's Alexa. In Google's case, it's OK Google or Hey Google. Siri will also do this if the iPhone is plugged in. Hey Siri. When it hears the wake word, it starts recording. It's looking for gaps in the sound. It looks for those gaps and it passes the words between those gaps to a speech recognition engine. Now, this is a massive data bank somewhere under a mountain full of throbbing computers, all waiting for sound files to arrive and be processed. And what it's actually doing is it's looking for the actual words in that audio. It's not looking for meaning yet, just the words. It passes it to a brain, the artificial intelligence, the AI, which is in another computer next door. Now, that is looking for actual meaning, which is much, much harder. So, a good example is if I said, Alexa, call me a cab, she wouldn't say, Mike, you're a cab. She would say, OK, I'll get in touch with Uber. Now, we know this, but machines don't. They have to learn that. It's about context. And there's so much ambiguity, in particularly the English language. This is really hard for computers to do. And this is what the artificial intelligence stage is doing. When it's worked out the meaning behind my question, it may well do a quick jump off to the web. So it might go to Wikipedia to answer the question, for example, or another web source. In our case, if someone is asking for a radio player station, it will come off to our systems on the internet. We will give it a stream to play and some words to say. That goes back into the Amazon engine for speech synthesis, passed back to the device. It will say what we've told it to say. It will stream what we've told it to stream. Now, that all happens in a blink of an eye. You saw that demonstration earlier. We're talking about thousandths of a second for each of these interactions. But they're really, really hard for computers to do. That speech synthesis stage is where the characterization comes in, the humanness that Mark talked about in Alexa. Now, this wasn't always the case. In some kind of dystopian visions of the future, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, the classic movie, voice personal assistants, as they're called, VPAs, have a very different character.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
Okay, so that's a psychopathic voice personal assistant that ends up trying to kill the whole crew. Now, I've sort of constructed this matrix on which we can look at it from human to functional. There's no psychopathic on that scale, but that's where Hal would be. And then on that axis, it's in one place versus multi-platform. So on this matrix, for example, Alexa comes there because she's trying to be really human. Amazon are trying to make her really human. They're also trying to put her everywhere. As we'll see in a moment, Amazon are launching devices soon that are aimed at your bedroom. Also, they've opened up their API, which is those cloud-based resources that I talked about earlier, to third-party developers. So, for example, you could soon see a Zanussi washing machine with an Alexa voice in. So it's not just powering Amazon's products. So they're trying to be everywhere, multi-platform. Google, on the other hand, powered by the Google Assistant, hasn't just got one voice. As a developer on the Google Home, you can choose a male voice, a female voice, you can choose different accents. So clearly Google are not trying to make this one person like Alexa is. But in many ways, that platform is much better at recognition. So actually it's more towards the functional side of things than the human side of things, but equally multi-platform. Siri, more associated with Apple products, particularly the iPhone. So that's very much towards the in-one-place side of the spectrum. More human than Google, but not quite as human as Alexa. And Cortana, which is the Windows voice assistant, goes somewhere there. So it's interesting when you're looking at this stuff where to put in-car devices. Car is where voice control could really work. Great safety benefits. And we asked people, if Alexa was available in your car, would you set it up? And of course, massive majority of these existing Echo users said, yes, we would, we'd love it. Now, back to that matrix, car stuff would naturally come up there in the top right-hand quadrant, optimized for the dashboard, so in one place. You don't really want to be having a chat, a long threaded conversation in the car with your kind of Alexa assistant. You just want the thing to do what you've asked it to do quickly. So highly functional, highly optimized. Now we've had a bit of experience recently in this area with Radioplayer Car, which is a voice-controlled system we've just launched. It's a hybrid radio system. It switches automatically between DAB, FM, and streaming. It uses the power of the smartphone, safely held in a dashboard cradle. You don't need to touch it or look at it, you just talk to it. So we're basically using the microphone and the computing power in that smartphone to control a radio module. This is roughly how it works.
Radio player. Skip.
BBC Radio 6 Music.
So what you saw there is a very simple command like skip, but you can also say station names to make it switch, and you can ask for traffic news, and you can ask for music news as well. So that's out in the market now, and that's our foray into voice control using the smartphone as the core. What's coming up, though? This is what Amazon's view of the near future looks like.
Alexa, take a photo. Introducing Echo Look, a first-of-its-kind Echo with a hands-free camera. Echo Look takes photos using just your voice. Its built-in lighting and depth-sensing camera lets you blur the backgrounds to make sure your outfits pop, giving you clean, full-length photos that are easy to share with friends. It combines the best in machine learning with advice from fashion specialists. Just pick 2 outfits and Style Check will give you a recommendation based on current trends and what flatters you. Echo Look. Love your look every day.
So that's Amazon clearly going for the bedroom next, but also a female target audience. And that's really important because anecdotally, we've heard actually that Echo's and specifically Alexa's character is not so much appreciated by women as it is by men. I know, highly anecdotally, sample of 1 here, my wife hates Alexa, and our Echo's been banished to the shed. So whenever I have to go and test anything on Radio Player, I go out into the dark and the cold and I say a variety of station names in strange accents in my shed. It's a very tawdry interaction, but my wife won't allow her in the house. But, would she allow something like that in the house? But no, absolutely not, probably not. Amazon are also going for this. This was announced a couple of days ago. It's called the Echo Show, and it's got a screen on it. So where they've got the camera on the Echo Look, they've put a screen on the Echo Show for video conferencing and looking at stuff. Google, on the other hand, are not so much about innovating at the front end, at the device. They're innovating at the back end in those computing systems in the cloud. They're doing something really, really clever, which no one else is doing yet. Multi-user recognition. So it's working out who is talking in the room. This is how it works.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Daddy.
Okay, Google, tell me about my day.
Good morning, Alex. Traffic to work is heavy. It is 45 minutes by car.
Hey, Google,
Tell me about my day.
Good morning, Ross. At 10 a.m., you have your first meeting.
Great. I'll take the kids.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys, grab your bags. Let's go. Chop, chop.
A bientôt, Papa.
Bye. Hey, Google, what does abiento mean?
It means see you soon.
Now that's really clever because actually the voice files that are passed from the device to the cloud-based systems are really quite low quality. They've been filtered for background noise and they sound more telephonic than anything else. So to be able to tell the difference between the voices at the input stage is really, really clever. And actually it occurred to me my bank is doing this now as well. If I ring up First Direct, they're able to take me through security using just my voice on the phone. So they must be doing something really, really clever with voice print sort of technology and the timbre of my voice, even given that it's over a telephone or over a relatively low bandwidth link back to a computer. And this stuff's really, really clever, really high end. So in summary, around the tech side of things to watch out for, more radio player features coming soon and deeper engagements with radio. Voice going through the home. You saw Amazon's attempt to colonize the bedroom there, and to the car. That will definitely come and is coming already. VPA's, voice personal assistants, becoming more conversational. And I don't just mean the timbre of the voice becoming more human. I mean multi-threaded conversations like you'd have with a human. For example, I could say in the future, not yet, but in the future, Alexa, how tall is the Eiffel Tower? And she would tell me. And then I could say, where is it? Without repeating the core of the question. And she'd answer me. And then I could say, can you book me a ticket there? In other words, that artificial intelligence is maintaining the context through a multi-threaded conversation. It knows, it's remembered that it's about the Eiffel Tower in Paris. That's really hard. They're all working on it. And it will come very soon, I'm sure. Screens and cameras, so that's all about peripherals in Amazon's case, and multi-voice recognition from Google. And just to rewind to what you heard from Mark about the overall research that we commissioned together, this stuff is mainstream now. Nearly 10% of homes have it. Probably is 10% now, to be honest, given the gap between when we did the field work and now. Where it is in a home, it has locked itself into the daily routine. It's not on the fringes. 81% use it every day. Massively dominated by audio, of which the massive majority is radio. So really great news for all of us in the radio industry. And it makes it more important than ever that you get your branding right and your sound right. So the world is definitely getting more vocal. Thank you very much for listening to both of us. And there's much more detail on the Radiocentre website. Thank you.